Welcome back to Joy News Desk, and you may have followed the measure of the movement for change and the Ghana Interest Movement, plus other political and pressure groups who have come together to become an alliance. And their aim is just to break the monopoly of the two major political parties, the NDC and the NPP. I've been joined in the studio by the leader for the movement for change, Alan Kyerematen, for more on this. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
I've been seeing you going around the country and selling your message to them. How has it been? How is it going?
Well, it's going very well. This gives me an opportunity to make a slight correction.
Okay.
The alliance is not a major of the constituent political entities.
Okay.
It's an alliance. Because it's not a major, each of the constituent or each member of the alliance would keep their own identity.
Okay.
As a political group, will keep their own symbol.
Okay.
But we all campaign as a group.
Okay.
For the general election in December.
But you will lead them.
Yes. Okay. And they've also agreed as part of the arrangements, the alliance arrangements, for myself to be the presidential candidate. So they've endorsed, the alliance partners have endorsed my candidature to become the presidential candidate.
Okay.
However, and they will of course all campaign for me, but they will keep their individual identities. Okay. And the second slight correction I wanted to make also is that we've come together, yes, to break the duopoly.
Yep.
But also to do different things.
Okay.
One clearly is to go beyond the duopoly, because we believe it's not held our political dispensation. But we've also come together because we all believe that Ghana needs to have transformational policies in all spheres of national life, in the economy, in health, in education, in energy, in governance. So all these sectors of our national life. Okay. And they've agreed, as the alliance partners have also agreed, that they will use the Great Transformational Plan as the blueprint for the alliance and by extension to fight the general election.
Okay.
Thirdly, they've also, or we've also all agreed that we'll put the private sector as the center of our development agenda. And not just the private sector, also to put youth and women at the center of development.
Okay.
And then there's two more that we also believe, all of us believe, that we have to work towards a government of national unity, a more representative government than we have now, a government that would include political parties, but would also include other interest groups like the private sector, the faith-based organizations, and then other groups. Okay. And then, of course, we all also agree that there should be a mindset change and attitudinal change in Ghana.
All right. So how many pressure groups or interest groups have joined the movement for change?
So right now we are 9 in all.
9 in all.
Still counting.
Still counting.
Yes.
Tell me about these groups. We know about the Ghana Interest
So there's the National
movement.
Interest Movement.
Okay.
There's the Union Government.
Okay.
Led by Mr. Kwesi Adai, otherwise known as ODK.
Yes.
Then we have the National Green Party, led by Reverend Ayesu. Then we have the group, it's called the GFC, the Ghana First Coalition, led by Bishop Bishop Mensah, Sam Mensah. Then we have the Alliance for Corruption, Movement for Corruption, Fight Against Corruption. Yes, and we have, so we have different groups.
Who have joined, 9 in all.
9 in all.
Okay,
yes.
And I'm quite interested in the fact that they would all still belong to their groupings and still believe in their ideologies, but you become an alliance. Why did you choose to go that path? Because usually an alliance who have agreed to make you the leader, that means they believe in your transformational agenda.
Absolutely.
And they must fit into it. So you do things together. So, I mean, how does this work that they will still be in their own groupings and then they still believe in your transformational agenda?
Well, that's the interesting part of it. And it shows you that it's not a marriage of convenience, but we're all fighting for a common cause. Now, so they are working to ensure that Ghana has A, B, C, D. The things that I talked about. It's the same thing that I'm talking about. So it doesn't matter that they still keep their individual identities. Once we are talking about the same thing, then my understanding is that they believe that they are not necessarily subordinating their interests to the movement for change, but they are collaborating and working together to achieve the same objectives.
Okay, so they will still also be using their symbols and not the butterfly.
Yes, they will still use their symbols, but we would have a joint campaign team.
But on the ballot, if you are leading them, there must be the butterfly.
Yes, there will be the butterfly.
Wouldn't that create confusion for the electorate who UG will be campaigning to them with a different, logo, and then you have Movement for Interest Interest Movement also campaigning with a different logo, and then on that day when they go to the polls, they see butterfly, so they'll be confused.
Well, I'm happy that you're actually thinking through this properly. The agreement is that because we have one candidate contesting for the presidential elections, that candidate, being Alan Kyerematen,
with the butterfly
would
signature,
with a butterfly symbol. And so everywhere we go in our campaign, that is the message. That Alan is the candidate and he is contesting on the ticket of the movement for change. And the symbol is the butterfly. But we are supporting him. We have endorsed his candidature. So even though it may sound confusing, actually it is not. Because all the alliance partners are saying that this is our candidate, this is our leader, and vote for him. So once that is explained in a joint campaign, I believe that that confusion will not arise. Obviously, I can understand why people may think that, well, it will be confusing for voters because you are talking about an alliance, but you are talking about a move. That is why if you look at the alliance symbol, it is not a symbol for purposes of contesting the election. But let me add that the individual alliance partners can determine to field independent candidates in different constituencies.
Independent candidates for parliamentary?
For the parliamentary. Yes, for the parliamentary. Because there are two elections, parliamentary and presidential. Presidential, they've all agreed they have one candidate. But in terms of parliamentary, we all also agree that we would work together to support any individual nominated by any of the partners to contest for a parliamentary seat. Okay. So, for example, if what's your constituency? You are not sure.
No, Okankwe South.
South, Okankwe
yes.
South.
Yes.
Yes. So, for example, if NIM, Abu Sakari's team, is interested in putting up a candidate to contest the Okankwe South seat, all the alliance partners would support that candidate, just like they are supporting the presidential candidate.
Okay.
And in actual fact, if you take the NIM, Abu Sakari's group, they were established specifically to identify potential parliamentarians.
Okay. So in that case, if they put up an independent candidate
yes.
who will be supported by the alliance, what symbol then will appear on the ballot?
I think you are trying to get onto my cabinet because you are thinking through very systematically and a structured way.
Maybe you make me your gender minister.
Yes. Now, so that in that context, the independent candidate is supposed to run with a symbol.
Okay.
So that symbol does not necessarily have to be the symbol of the NIM.
Okay.
Because you see, the NIM is an entity. They have their own symbol. So they may support an independent candidate who would have a different, who may choose a different symbol. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
but would have the support of the alliance.
They will have the support of the alliance.
Okay.
You know, so there's a difference between the symbol you use and the type of support you receive.
Okay.
You know, but according to the provisions of the political parties decree or act. You see, you cannot, two people cannot have the same symbol. When you register a symbol, it is exclusive to you. So you may find that there will be different symbols for the different independent candidates that are supported by
the alliance. Wow, that's quite interesting.
Yes.
I want to see how that works out.
Oh, well, so Okankwe South, NIM, Abu Sakari's movement decides that they are interested in Okankwe South.
Okay.
Now, they nominate a candidate. We have agreed that all of us would vet the candidate to ensure that we are supporting the right candidate and a candidate who will win.
Okay.
Once we agree that that's the right candidate,
you're going with,
then he or she would register as an independent candidate. But because that individual is an independent candidate, you cannot say that you are representing NIM.
Okay.
Because you are an independent candidate.
Okay.
You know, you are independent. So you register, it's your name and the symbol.
Okay. But you have the support.
You have the support.
Of the NIM or the alliance in general.
NIM and the alliance in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your transformational agenda
and
how these other 9 groups can fit into it. Because if they're all still doing their things independently. How then do they fit into your transformational agenda?
So they agreed that they will adopt the Great Transformational Plan.
Okay.
The Great Transformational Plan has 15 pillars.
Okay.
On the macroeconomy, on industry, on trade, on agriculture, on tourism, on infrastructure, health, education. 15 transformational policies. Now, so we've come together as an alliance, and they have agreed that, subject to the necessary amendments being made, they would adopt the Great Transformational Plan.
Okay.
So they have the flexibility now to add and subtract to the Great Transformational Plan.
Add to and subtract means that...
that, let's say, if we take inflation, we have about 4 or 5 different policy solutions in the Great Transformational Plan that will reduce inflation to single digits.
Right.
So ODK, as part of these consultations, has already agreed, because that's the basis for them, that they would accept the basic Great Transformational Plan. But they may decide that they may add 1 or 2 other policies that may still help reduce inflation.
Okay.
Yes. So we all share a common plan in the Great Transformational Plan. And that is the blueprint that we are campaigning with. So it's not as if each alliance partner is bringing their own plan.
Okay.
The Great Transformational Plan has been adopted as the blueprint being presented by the alliance.
Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Now, let's look at the 15 pillars. And let's start with the macroeconomic bit. I mean, we all know the times in which we are. What is your plan with this 15 pillars? What's your plan for the transformational agenda?
Okay, so if you take the macroeconomy, which is pillar 1, there are policy solutions on how to reduce inflation. There are policy solutions on how to reduce interest rates. There are policy solutions on how to manage our debt so that we have sustainable debt. There are solutions about tax and tax reform. There are solutions about revenue, how we optimize our revenue.
Okay.
And there are solutions also in respect of making sure that we control our expenditure. So the difference between a plan and a manifesto, which is what the parties present, is that I will reduce inflation. But they don't give you a plan to reduce the inflation.
Okay.
I will bring interest rates down. But there is no plan that people can interrogate, that this is how you are going to reduce inflation. So that is why even for 2 dominant parties that have been in power for 32 years, you know that they are now putting together their manifestos.
Yes.
You are aware. They've set up committees to put their manifestos together. But we have a plan.
Okay.
We already have a very comprehensive plan. On the economy alone, we have 152 different policy solutions.
Share some of that with me.
So for example, one of the biggest challenges that we have is on taxes. So tax reform. The reason why Ghana has had challenges in terms of being a competitive economy is the fact that our taxes are too high. If you look at, let's say, duties and taxes on imports, you find that you have almost like 55% tax if you add up.
Okay, but on the bit about taxes, you've been trades minister for such a long time. You didn't see anything wrong with that?
Yes, but trade ministers
until now?
Trade ministers don't fix taxes.
You are a cabinet minister.
I'm a cabinet minister, but you see, everybody has their own responsibility. Now, I can make a recommendation, but the final decision on taxes would come from the Ministry of Finance.
Okay, did you make that recommendation?
But we've been talking about this. Yeah, because my interest, for example, is to reduce taxes. Try and understand the logic.
Okay.
I'm Minister for Trade and Industry.
Right.
My objective is to have taxes reduced so that my companies will become more competitive.
True.
The interest of the finance minister, admittedly, would be that I want more revenue.
Okay.
So if in his own thinking, he believes that he can only raise revenue through taxes, then we would have divergent opinions about taxes.
Did you make that recommendation? Did you raise it?
Yes, even
at
from
your
President
meetings?
Kufuor's time. But this is very obvious. And I feel that the way we've structured our economy with high taxes, it would always create a problem in terms of how competitive we are. But you also know that if you have high taxes, then we have high inflation. Because the costs of production, when you have high taxes, means that the cost of production will be high.
Okay.
If you have high interest rates, it means that the cost of production will be high. If your cost of production is high, you pass it on to your consumers, so it will reflect in inflation, which is the level of prices in the economy. So everything is interrelated.
Okay.
If you don't have a stable currency, your inflation would also go up. Because if right now, as we see, if the cedi depreciates and you are importing goods, it means that you need more cedis to a dollar. And once that happens, then when you import goods, it means that you have to reflect the depreciation of the cedi in your prices.
But if you agree that the trade minister wants to reduce taxes to get the companies functioning properly, but the finance minister wants to raise revenue, I mean, how would it work in your government? Because you would also be crying
now
for revenue.
Now you are really competing for your position.
Oh yes, I have to.
So,
it's very important.
No, but you see, but that's the tension that you always have. So the way I would deal with it is that is why Alan has to be president.
Okay.
Because, industry, trade, all over the world, that is the engine of the economy. So if you have a president who understands industry and trade, the economy would work.
Okay.
That is why if you look at the most powerful economies of the world, they are also the most industrialized. United States, China, Japan, Germany, France, Korea, in that order, Brazil. The top 10 economies in the world are also the most industrialized. So you need somebody sitting there at the top who understands the connectivity between taxes, interest rates, industry, trade, and all that.
But these countries you've mentioned have also not taken out the taxation part. They also pay high taxes.
Well, you see, but it is on direct taxes. There are two types of taxes: direct taxes and indirect taxes.
True.
Direct taxes are taxes like income tax and then corporate tax. What companies pay and what individuals pay.
True.
But almost invariably, in all these powerful economies, they make sure that the indirect taxes, which is the taxes and duties on imports and levies and things like that, are significantly low. Because once you do that, then you make your companies more profitable and competitive. Once they are competitive, then they will expand production. If they expand production, it means they will employ more people. When they employ more people, then what do you think you were losing by way of the reduction in taxes? You will gain that through direct taxes, that's income tax and corporate tax.
Let me delve into the running mate conversation. I mean, now the NDC has their running mates. MPP is yet to announce their running mates. What's the agreement to choose a running mate from the alliance, or, I mean, what's the arrangement?
Well, so the arrangement is that we are focusing on the presidential ticket, because that's what appears on the ballot paper. And that's where the controversy normally is. But once, as alliance partners, they've all agreed that Alan becomes the candidate, the presidential candidate. The choice of the running mate will be decided by all the alliance partners based on certain considerations, criteria. We all sit together and then determine the criteria for selecting. And that's the beauty of it, because it's the same way that they all agreed to one person becoming the candidate, even though they were all going to contest as presidential candidates, which was a more difficult task. In my view, selecting a vice presidential candidate would be much easier.
Okay.
But it means that it will be a decision of all the alliance partners.
And you've not made that decision yet?
No, we've not made, because we've just launched the
alliance.
The alliance.
Okay.
So we'll make that decision. But all of us have agreed that we don't need to focus on that. The important thing is to get our campaign moving.
Are you saying that the vice president is not really important in this whole election?
It's important, but the alliance partners feel that having a candidate and having the alliance being part of a joint campaign, those are more critical than rushing to select it. But we'll get there. We'll cross the bridge when we get there. You want me to put up your name for consideration? If you join our front door, then I can say, okay, this is my proposal.
That's interesting. But one other issue that has come up, because if you become president, the Constitution makes arrangements for you to choose a percentage of your ministers from Parliament. How do you intend to cross that bridge?
Well, very easy. Because we are working towards a government of national unity, a representative government, a government that would have, I would say, members from the NDC, from MPP, from the smaller parties, and also members from the business community, from the traditional authorities, from different interest groups. Now, in line with the constitutional provision of selecting 50% of ministers from them, it means that those who are represented in Parliament, including also independent candidates, will all get the opportunity to be part of our government, which is different from the current dispensation. It is most unlikely in this dispensation, where you have this duopoly, that an NDC government or an NPP government will appoint an NDC MP as a member of the executive. You see, but the point is that this system is not sustainable. It means that whether you are the right person for the job or not, once you are not part of the ruling, let's say, the ruling party, there is no way that you have the chance of being. But is that sustainable?
We've done this for how many years now?
That's exactly the point.
Since 92?
So that has landed us where we are now. So I can tell you, this new system, this new political architecture
that you are bringing,
is going to be the game changer, not only for Ghana, but for Africa. So it means that right now, you select a president not based on the existing parties, but based on his or her individual record. So that independent candidate who becomes president now has the flexibility to choose his ministers from any political party.
So are you likely to choose from both NDC and MPP?
But that's part of the concept.
But they have different ideologies.
No, but you see, the point is that, let's really be frank about this. The ideologies that we pretend to have, is that what we follow? I mean, if you look at the MPP in terms of our policy architecture, we've introduced, since Kufuor's time, we've introduced more social interventions than the NDC, that is a social democratic, I would say, party.
That's the NPP.
I'm saying the NPP has introduced more social interventions than the social democratic party than the NDC. The NDC, admittedly, has also undertaken some very significant policy interventions that would more or less be aligned to a capitalist ideological orientation.
So you are in essence admitting that all these fine things you're talking about, if you become president, it may not be so.
Yeah, no, because the point is that if the president has won the election on the basis of a plan, which is the Great Transformational Plan. Now, if I pick somebody from the NDC, I'll pick somebody from the NPP, who are parliamentarians. They are coming to be part of a government that is executing the Great Transformational Plan.
So they will drop their NDC, NPP ideologies and follow your plan?
Well, but the point is that we are talking about focusing on Ghana, what to move Ghana forward. And the majority of the people have determined by voting Alan Kyerematen as president that they believe in his great transformational plan.
All right, we are running out of time. Okay. Let me ask you just one critical question. I mean, we are in an era where everybody is complaining about electricity, erratic power supply. What's your plan?
My plan is that in terms of infrastructure, so not just energy infrastructure, road infrastructure, rail infrastructure, sanitation infrastructure, government cannot and will never be able to provide the resources to fund the development of infrastructure. You see, this mindset, which has existed since, I think, independence, that government has to build roads, it has to build schools.
Okay.
It's not sustainable.
I'm talking about our power supply,
no, so it's the same
which has been a problem for years now.
Yeah, it's infrastructure.
Okay.
So I'm saying that my policy is to have the private sector finance infrastructure with support from government. So if you take the energy sector, for example, the challenges with the power supply comes from three different components of the energy sector. One, generation. Two, transmission. And three, distribution. Now, so if you look at generation, for example, now government has taken on the responsibility, unfortunately, that they have to borrow money to install generation infrastructure.
Do you agree with those who say ECG should be privatized?
Absolutely, because it's the same principle. Government has tried to run ECG for many years. It has not worked. It is not going to work. Right now, we are having challenges also because our transmission infrastructure is obsolete. So it's not just the distribution ECG, it's also the transmission. We need investment in them. The government does not have the money to invest in new transmission infrastructure. So it only is common sense.
So the way to go
is to ask the private sector
to step in. I'm afraid that's all time will allow us. I'm grateful for your time. Alan Kyerematen, he's the leader for the Movement for Change, the Afafranto Party, and I'm happy that we sat. I'm grateful for your time. Viewers, see you again at 12.